Welcome back on Kansas Sports Chatter. It's time now for our football chatter. And man, this time of the year, there's one guy and there's one magazine that I think about a lot, and I think everybody does as well. That's John Baetz, the publisher for the Kansas Pregame magazine. John, appreciate you jumping on the show. I say this to you every year, whether I text it to you or we talk on an interview, whatever it may be. Man, phenomenal magazine. Again, you do it and you do it the right way. So hats off to you. And maybe this is a time where you can actually relax here in a little bit, but great job on the publication.
Thank you very much. I can't believe it's been 20 years. When we started it, I didn't really know what it was going to be necessarily. It was a product of, if you're familiar with Tim McGonigal from Scott City, who has KansasProFootball.com, he and I had been talking for a long time about doing something, a preview publication. He had kind of used Dave Campbell's Texas Football as a kind of a resource for what maybe he was interested in doing. And we got together and put this together, but I couldn't have imagined that I would be doing this 20 years later. And then for the last 8 years, doing it as my full-time job. I mean, that and the winter basketball, wrestling, and the spring baseball, softball, track, and then expanded web coverage and social media and all those kind of things. I would have never imagined, but it's been really special to be able to cover high school sports in this way. And then speaking to your point about hoping that, maybe there's an opportunity to relax a little bit. Well, my full-time writer and editor, Keegan McCulloch, is going to have another baby, I believe a little baby girl. They already have a boy. And the due date is towards the end of November. So we actually are ramping up production on the basketball and wrestling preview as quickly as we can, because we want to make sure he's ready for that when it comes to go time.
What is that photo shoot like? You mentioned, close to 70 players and coaches gathering in one spot. What is that photo shoot like on that day?
Well, for me, it's just the most stressful experience that I have during the year, because it's this process of I've had interns. I think each of the last 4 or 5 years through the Next Generation Roundup for Youth, which is a subsidiary of Next Tech, and a really outstanding organization that's helped to feed us interns that I might not have otherwise had. And so one of the interns will be responsible for checking off the athletes and making sure that they're arriving. And one of the other interns might be responsible for making sure that they get the sponsors will send information, flyers, swag bags, things like that. And we make sure that each of the athletes and their parents, their families get that kind of stuff. We have treats, we have cookies and ice water and things like that for them. And so making sure that every athlete gets photographed with multiple poses, gets photographed. If we have, Osage City, we had 2 kids from, so we make sure that they get photographed individually, they get photographed together. Sometimes we have coaches there, making sure that those all get photographed together, and then making sure that we get a group shot that works in the vertical format. We've picked when we used to do it, my goal was one athlete from every classification. And then the further I've gone along, the more I've been like, oh man, I hate to leave this kid out. I hate to leave this kid out. And it's evolved into this. It's still, we got to have at least one kid from each classification. But then we also, we want to make sure that we try to get as many of those elite players in each classification covered as possible. And so it is a highly stressful, usually it doesn't take that long. We can usually get them in and out the whole thing in a couple of hours, and maybe less. We've done them in 90 minutes before, but it is also incredibly cool because you get a kid like Charlie Phelps from Tesket, a 6-man player that's with a kid like JJ Dunnigan from Manhattan, who is absolutely one of the best all-around athletic prospects in the country. It's very cool, I think, for those kids to see that they get to interact together. And me being a small town guy, you know, I've lived in Lincoln for 25 years, and obviously it's pretty well documented that I grew up in Smith Center. It's really important that the small town kids get coverage. Um, it, I don't think you can cover them equally as far as like, because there's just not as many of them. I mean,
Sure.
there are, you know, hundreds of kids on 5A and 6A teams. And so, but to make sure that they get some coverage in a statewide publication like this is incredibly important to me.
Well, it'd be unfair of me probably to ask you your favorite part of a magazine of that size, but I will ask you, what are some of the features this year that you're probably maybe most proud of?
Well, there's a couple different things that we did this year, and if you've seen it, this is called a single gatefold. So, you know, this is the cover, and then when you flip it and open it up like this, we've done one of these before, and we just did one for the spring issue that we did, and then of course to feature all of these different athletes with their coaches was a really fun and special experience. And then the 20th anniversary team, that was a lot. That was a lot of fun to put it together and to look back over, you know, since we started this in 2006, to look back and say, who are the, you know, the absolute best players that the state of Kansas has seen in that time. And it's, you know, it's really cool to think about some of these, you know, some of these people. I mean, Bubba Starling, of course, was in the Royals system and didn't have, you know, the major league career that was predicted and that he hoped for, but man, he was an incredible athlete. Yep. And Breece Hall is maybe the best running back that I've ever seen play in person, although I've been fortunate to see a lot of really good ones. Jake Sharp was, you know, outstanding. Mark Seminow, who I was a couple years older than in high school, was an outstanding running back. I've been fortunate to see a lot of great players play, but Breece Hall, really outstanding player. And then you look at, you know, Avery Johnson right now is a great quarterback at K-State. Braden Smith is absolutely the most freakish human being that I've ever seen in person ever. And a guy that was 6'6", 320 pounds, basically of shredded muscle mass. The guy was so big and strong that they wouldn't let him max out because they stopped him at 500 pounds on bench and they stopped him at 500 pounds for reps on squat because they just were like, you don't need to try to one rep max and just, you know, just annihilate your legs and your pecs and your things like that. And of course, he went to Auburn and he plays for the Indianapolis Colts. And we can go on and on about these outstanding players. And of course, it's still up for debate. There are limitations that go along with print. You only have so much space in a print publication. There are certainly other players that deserve to be mentioned amongst the best in the state of Kansas. And our team is influenced by some of the players that we've watched over the years. But the debate about it is certainly fun. And sometimes you have people on social media that get a little bit too fired up about that. But for the most part, I think people are pretty respectful, and I think they appreciate the product that was produced.
John, appreciate it. And like I said, I guess you don't get to breathe too much here as you're already working on the winter edition. But nice job on the magazine and keep up the good work.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking time to do this. I'm excited about this new venture that you have. I hope this is maybe something that I can contribute to again and down the road. I would say I will be remiss not to mention that a very important part of this issue to me was writing a feature column about my high school football coach, Roger Barta, who passed away this summer. Just a great, great dude. He was a great coach, but just a great guy. He was a really caring man, and he was not a guy that was in your face. He was a process guy, and I hope people will enjoy reading about him and hearing a couple of my stories about him. And I plan to do a little more video stuff myself this year and talk about some fun stories about him down the road. So be sure and check us out, KansasPregame.com. Kansas Pregame on Facebook and Twitter, X. We don't do as much on Instagram, but we are present there, and we appreciate everybody following us and and following along over the course of the year. And we'll have football rankings and all that good stuff as well. So come back and visit often. And thank you very much, Cole, for the time to be on and talk about this morning.
That is John Baetz, the publisher and CEO of Kansas Pregame Magazine, joining us here for Football Chatter.